Don't miss this episode of Doggy Dilemmas. It's all about Basie. Ow!
Denise Mazzola is a certified professional dog trainer with over 20 years experience training dogs and people. If you've got a doggy dilemma, Denise can help.
Welcome to another episode of Doggy Dilemmas. I'm Denise Mazzola. Today we're working with Basie. As you can see, Basie doesn't know a lot yet. Basie is a 5-month-old standard poodle, old English sheepdog mix. And he is full of himself at the moment. So the first thing I'm just gonna show you things as they happen, right? So Basie's on me, I don't want him to be. I'm gonna take him off using the leash, because if I push him or touch him like this, he may very well interpret that as patting him. He may enjoy that. So the point is, I don't need to hurt him in this process, but I just need to make it neutral to get him off me. Okay, I want to show you this stuff. This is just some floor matting. I'm also going to step on his leash with the prickly side up. And I have this laying across this new couch of mine to keep all the dogs off. Now, prior to us starting to shoot, Basie did put his feet up here, and he may do it again. He didn't particularly care that the prickles were there, didn't seem to bother him, and what he's trying to get to is the food that I have behind here. But most dogs do not like this, and it will be a deterrent to keep them off because it is unpleasant. So if you have any kind of furniture, your bed, couch, a chair that you don't want the dogs on, I would just go and buy some of this, turn it upside down, and just leave it here. And both couches are always covered with it. One, it prevents me from constantly having to either yell at the dogs or come over and take them off the furniture. I also have lots of dog beds around the house. As you can see, there's one here, so that they have an alternative instead of just sleeping on the floor. Good boy, Basie. Okay, so Basie's 5 months old. Sit. He knows a few things. The owner has worked on sit and on down. He has a very cute face, and I'm not sure if you're going to see it through all of his fur or not. So some of the things we're going to work on today is lure reward training. It's the fastest way to get a sit, a down, and a stand. The biggest obstacle with lure reward training is that people don't get rid of the lure, and the lure is a food treat. And if you don't get rid of the lure, you'll have a dog that will only work for food treats. So obviously that's not what we want either. I am also going to introduce Basie to the clicker. Now, he's not heard it before, so what I'm going to do, because I don't know him that well, he's been with me less than 24 hours, I'm going to wrap it in my shirt the first time I click it. It's a little dull. Good boy. And I don't want to scare him. Some dogs that are sound sensitive, when you make that sound, as long as he's still sitting, good boy, they will actually have a fearful response to it, and then you've basically ruined the clicker. You cannot use it. The clicker will be very helpful as Basie's training progresses, and I need him to work away from me, or I do something called shaping. So if you keep watching the show, you'll see those as those happen as well. Okay, so lure reward. He seems to be fine with the clicker. I'm going to break up my little piece of food. It's a little bit smaller. And he has a fairly decent sit, but I'm going to show you how to lure that. So you can also just lure him into position and tip his head up. And as he sits, he gets the treat. This becomes your hand signal. Turn your hand over. Treats are underneath. From his nose, you're going to take him to between his front feet. Good boy. And as you notice, I'm not saying anything yet to him. I'm not saying sit. I'm not saying down too much. I always want behavior first before I start to talk to the dog. So we'll do the down again. Again, I've got 3 to 4 treats in my hand. And I squish them up, palm down, between his feet, yes. I give him 1, I give him 2, I give him 3, and now I'm going to come up into the stand. So I'm going to lure him again. Yes. Good boy. Now, not everybody likes to teach their dog stand. He is a dog, because of his poodle mix, he will need grooming on a regular basis. And it's helpful to the groomer, it's helpful to the veterinarian, and it will be helpful to the owners if he will stand on command for me, if I need to wipe his feet and his belly, and for grooming and obviously for veterinary reasons. Good boy. I just turn my palm down. If you want your hand signal to be this, you can certainly have your palm up. And then we're going to lure him. It takes a little bit. Yes, good boy. So you can see when he loses interest, I'm giving him 4, 5, good boy, 6 treats while he's standing, so he has a little bit of duration. Let me show you some common mistakes that are often made with lure reward training. So, good boy. If I want him to go down, I've told you to bring his nose between his front feet. A lot of times, people end up doing this. Oh, good boy, he did it anyway. Sometimes if you do that, the dog will stand by mistake. Good boy. And we'll do the stand from the sit. Yes. So there's 1 treat, 2 treats, 3 treats, 4, 5, 6. Good boy. So we get some duration. Good boy. So he's very nice. He's not, he has a little bit of pre-training, which is perfect. Isn't it? Yes. You know, you only need to teach your dog some very basic commands. I'm going to show you some basics and a little bit of other things that I like to teach dogs so you can communicate with them. It's very frustrating to have any dog in the house, but a young dog, an energetic dog that's crazy running around or jumping on the counters or the couch or people, and they don't know sit, they don't know down, they don't know any English. Remember, your dogs are not little people. They are dogs. They're a different breed, different species, and they need to be taught English. Hand signals are first. That's what the lure. Now here's another good example. So I'm just going to ignore him. He's not going to get any food. He's not going to get into my bait bag, and I'm going to let him figure this out by himself. Once he gets off, I'm going to count to 1, 2, 3, 4. He doesn't need to sit or lie down. The point is to separate the jumping on me behavior from the getting off me behavior. Good boy. So he's going to continue to stand there. I can give him some more treats. So what I was saying was, good boy, is your dogs don't know English. The lure reward training is first going to teach sit hand signal, down hand signal, stand hand signal. That's what all the luring is for. Now, Basie is he's a pretty proficient. So the second step to lure reward training, there's only 3. The second step to lure reward training is, let's just toss a treat so he gets up. You're going to use your lure to ask for the behavior. Click, but you're going to treat with your other hand. That's very important. The dog will no longer get what's in your hand. Same for the down. Yes, he gets it from your other hand. Good boy. And same for the stand. Yes, good boy. Oops, fell out of my hand. Base. That one's a little bit harder. Good boy. Now, Basie, I think, is far enough along with training that we can go right to step 3. So step 3 is, and this is critical, break up some treats. And I have a mixture of natural balanced treats because he eats natural balanced dog food, and I'm using his dog food because I don't want to upset his stomach. So now, come here, Basie. You hold your hand just as if you have the food in it, but you don't. Okay, no treats. But you can't go from luring this way to luring this way in one step. You'll need a secondary step in there. Come here, Basie, you're being very good. So hold your hand, make the motion, good boy. But there's no treats, so it doesn't matter where the treats come from here. Again, just as if I have the treats, I lure him down, good boy. You can get it out of your bait bag, you can get it out of your other hand, good boy. Now the stand is a little harder, and I'm going to continue to lure that. Yes, good boy. Because that's one is not as proficient as the sit and the down. So be sure when you're working with your dog that you're also working within their limitations, within their knowledge base. It's very common for people to expect their dog to learn more because we think they do, but yet their behavior will tell you exactly what they know and what they don't know. That was very good, Basie. Okay, so let's go on to leave it, because I think leave it is a very basic, fundamental command that every dog should know. The way I teach leave it is they will never get what you're asking them to leave. Okay, they have to figure this out. And I'm going to use a couple handfuls of his dog food. Now, what do you think about that? This comes from my when I used to train service dogs. Service dogs were dogs placed with the physically disabled. So we'll work on this too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good boy. And service dogs were trained to never get what dropped. So if the individual dropped pills or food, a strong leave it command, the dog wouldn't bother with anything that hit the floor. So that's what we're going to do with him. I have food in both hands. You're going to kneel down. If your dog is really big, you can stand up a little bit, and I'm going to be a scarecrow. And I'm going to let him pester the hand. I want him to figure this out for himself, that doing nothing is what's going to produce the click and the treat for him. So he's going to paw. This is usually an exercise that I have adults do. I don't have children start this exercise for this very reason, that he's getting mouthy and pawing at my hand. And you don't want an accident to happen and have the dog get the food by doing that. You would be completely teaching them the opposite. Good boy, here. So pay attention to when the dog stops. Good boy. So he didn't pester the hand. Remember, I'm looking for him to do nothing. And I purposely deliver them in front of me because I ultimately want him to look at me. Good boy. Yes, good boy. Sorry to see his eyes, but he's definitely looking up. Yes. So Smarty Pants here has already figured out, there it is. So try one more time. Yes. So that time, he also laid down. I don't care about that, but what I waited for was him to look at me. Good boy. So what I like to do is you can feed your dog by teaching them the leave it exercise. You have to feed your dog anyway, so why not feed him for 60 seconds instead of 10 seconds? And 2 handfuls of dog food until it's gone, you'll be all set. You'll be teaching your dog and feeding him all at the same time. Okay, so the next step to this is when you put your hands out and the dog doesn't do anything, good boy. 1, treat him, and 2, drop your hands to the floor, and you start the process all over again. Ouch. He's like, oh, now you're in my level. There must be something for me in here. Good boy. I'm just going to wait another second. Yep, he's going to go to the other hand and see if he might get something out of that one. You don't want to move your hand away from the dog. The dog, good boy. Here, Basie. The dog must move his mouth away from your hand. I put it on the floor, sweetie. Here it is. Yep, and it's very common for them to go back and forth from hand to hand. Ow. So why, again, I don't have children do this. And you're just going to wait. You're not going to say anything. But you can see what a difference it makes to bring the food onto the floor. Good boy. So I'm going to give him a few pieces for that. That was a hard one for him. And I'm just going to give him a few extra pieces in my hand. I wanted to catch him. Did you get it? There it is. So you just need to be patient. If I moved my hand away from him, what would he be learning? Not much. He'd learn, oh, the hand, just to chase the hand or follow the hand. That's why I don't move my hand. Yes, good boy. There it is. Right there. Good boy. Okay. So next week we will go on and show you the next steps from there. That is the beginning stages of Leave It. Again, you notice that I'm not saying anything to him. I'm not labeling it yet, Leave It. When he's not doing anything, I can then label Leave It. You can always add the word later. There's no hurry to doing that. And as you can see with him sort of playing around and digging at my hands, he's not listening to me. He's not processing anything that I have to say anyway. You always want behavior first. Okay, another good exercise is the hand touch. Well, he will learn to touch the palm of my hand. If you have a shy dog, a nervous dog, this is an excellent exercise for them. Some of the key things that you need to know is don't move your hand to the dog's nose. You could actually be creating an adversive situation. Their noses are very sensitive. And if your hand is moving in really quick, you might be bopping them on the nose. So you'll see, I'm going to wait until Basie comes to my hand. I will quickly, I'm going to get my treats ready. I will click, and I will quickly treat back in front of my hand. Nope. Being very good boy. So just present it. I'm going to put the treats behind my back. So if he needs a little help as he looks, good boy. And I'll give it to him from that hand. This is where the clicker is very helpful because, so if he looks, good boy. Good boy. I can switch hands. Watch, I'm going to look at my hand. I'm not going to look at him because I don't want to. Good boy. So he made an attempt. I want him to get up, so I'm going to toss it a little bit. So if your dog is sort of stuck, doesn't know what to do, yes, good boy. Don't stare at him. If you've taught your dog any kind of attention exercise, you're staring at him and he's staring at you, wondering why you're not reinforcing that nice attention he's giving you. And be sure that he's moving towards your hand. Like, I don't want to just hold it here, right? He does that. But I could also just be teaching him to sit, be in a sit and reach and touch my hand, right? So that's 2 in the sitting position. I don't want any more in the sitting position. I want to be sure that he gets up. That's a good boy. Yes. There you go. Hands, treats behind your back. Yes. Good boy. Yes, good boy. So this is a really good example as to why the clicker is very helpful, because it's really communicating to him. Good boy. So, and if your dog is not touching your hand at all, wipe it on your pants, put it back out there. Usually the first time you put your hand out, the dog's curiosity is going to kick in and he's going to come and sniff your hand. So don't lose that opportunity. Good boy. Now, if you have a mouthy dog and he's coming up and mouthing your hand, you don't want to reinforce that. Okay, that's not what you're looking for. You're just looking for the nose touch. Yes, good boy. Now, this can be transferred to a target stick. We can teach, which then we can have the dog work a little bit away from us. I use this for healing. We can also use it for transferring to a paper plate, a Post-it note, and have the dog move some distance away from us. So there's lots of great things that can come from teaching your dog to target your hand. So we'll continue with that training the next few weeks as well. Okay. Okay, so let's just see if he's going to jump. I'm going to play with some of the food as a setup. And the leash today is really just to keep him within where everybody can see him so he's not running around the house. But normally I don't obviously train with a leash on the dog. So I'm going to play with the food. Good boy. They have grandchildren and he's very rambunctious with them. Good boy. So I want to really work with having him not jump. Now, he'll learn this game with me very fast. Good boy. And then the next process will be everybody that comes to the house to visit will be solicited to help me train the dog so that he won't be jumping on them. Good boy. But it's all about giving him an alternative behavior to do. I don't want him jumping on me. A dog like this, an Old English poodle mix, if I started kneeing him or pushing on him, he's a rowdy little guy. He'd be thinking, oh, she wants to play rough. Yeah, I can do that. And he'd probably be coming back for more. I would be unintentionally reinforcing his behavior. That's not what I think I'm doing, but that's what his behavior would indicate I was doing. If you do something with your dog and they come back for more, then you've not discouraged it. I am a complete believer in saying I did this with my children and I do this with the dogs. I don't want you on the furniture, so here I'm just going to manage the situation and keep you off the furniture. And look, I've provided you with some other places to be. I don't want you jumping on me. So until I can teach you something else to do, I dress appropriately so that the dogs can hang on me for a little bit and figure it out on their own. Oh, that's not working. She's not looking at me, she's not talking to me, she's not touching me, and I'm not getting any of those good treats she has in her hand. Great. So let him figure it out. Just stand there, keep talking to your guests or your friend or whatever you're doing. When the dog gets off, you heard me count 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I gave him some treats. And what has he been doing now since then? He's been offering the sit and offering the down. I've not done anything with him today. I fed him by mistake, but he's still very willing to work. So he is a little rambunctious guy, and he's doing really well. All right, it's covered jumping, targeting, sit down, stand, lure, reward. All right, so now we're going to do come when called. And the first part of this is I love using the whistle. You can get these locally very, very inexpensively. You do not need a fancy dog whistle. And they come with a little lanyard, but I've put that someplace else. So it's a novel sound. Usually dogs have not heard the whistle yet. I don't need the clicker for that. So you have every opportunity to instill classical conditioning. That's Pavlov's science. That's what we're using. Is you're going to blow the whistle lightly at first. Again, I don't want to scare him. And I'm going to use liverwurst because I'm going to assume that liverwurst is going to be a great, important thing for him, that he's not had it before, that he's going to like it. He's very food motivated, so that's what we're going to do. He doesn't need to do anything when I blow the whistle yet. Come here, you. You ready? So I'm going to get a couple handfuls of the liverwurst. The other mistake people make when they do this is, I'm not going to give him 1 cube of liverwurst, okay? I'm going to give him a fairly good, I would call it a blob, very technical term. And you can tell he likes it, of liverwurst, okay? Be generous when you're doing recalls, okay? So he knows I've got something, that's fine. I'm just going to put it behind my back. What he doesn't know is when he's going to get it. So I'm going to blow this, and he gets a couple pieces. So what I'm doing is I'm creating the association between this sound producing what I hope is going to be $500 to $1,000 for the dog. Right? When I get outside with him and there's squirrels and chipmunks and birds, there's a lot going on in New Hampshire this time of year. I want the whistle to trump all of those other things for him. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. I have a dog in my care that's a terrific hunting dog. He finds chipmunks and squirrels where I didn't even know they exist. When I blow the whistle for him, the whistle is not going to trump squirrels or chipmunks. So I just have to manage that, and he's not off leash unless I'm sure that I can get him back. We cocked his head, so he's getting a little, he was like, what was that? What was that? Huh? You're a cutie patootie. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. We're all tangled. Untangle us. Okay, so I'm going to let him just kind of poke along a little bit. This will be the third time. I usually, what I'm doing today is exactly the way I train a dog. I'm only going to do it 3 times. He's paying a little bit more attention. I'd like to get him doing something different, so I'll just ignore him, which won't be very interesting TV, but we'll just wait. The pawing that he's doing, I'm also going to ignore that. I personally don't like dogs that paw at me. And I'm wearing capris now, but it's hot this time of year, and when you're wearing shorts or a dress or nylons or something and your dog comes and paws at you, it can really hurt and scratch. So I am not going to reinforce the pawing at me that he does. A lot of people like to teach their dog shake, but that's not something that I'm going to do. You're not going to leave my side now, are you? Okay, so I've just pulled out a little treat. We're going to toss it away. We got poked by a plant. Doesn't matter. He still gets the liverwurst. Good boy. All right, so let me just review this because this is classical conditioning. We are creating an association between the sound of the whistle, $500, okay? If you think about it a little bit, we all have made associations in our life. If you go to a party for the first time and you're getting some punch and somebody comes up and talks to you and maybe they stand too close, or maybe their breath isn't the greatest, or they talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and you never get away, you're creating an association. It's probably a negative one. And when you see that person again in the grocery store or someplace, my guess is you'll avoid them because that first association was not pleasant. That's all we're doing with the whistle, is creating association. Don't use their dog food. Use something great. Experiment with your treats before you attempt this, because you don't want to blow the whistle and offer the dog a hot dog and the dog's like, yeah, I don't really like hot dogs. You've just undone your whistle recall. They're not going to come for the whistle because they don't like the association you're making. So that's paramount to this. Be generous. Blow the whistle, a handful of roast beef, a handful of cheese all mixed up so you got a variety of stuff. My personal favorite, liverwurst or the homemade liver treats. Dogs generally love that kind of stuff. Okay, so I've just done 3. We're not looking for any behavior yet from him. The next time I do this, I suspect when I blow the whistle, he's going to do what we call a head snap. Snap his head right back to the sound of the whistle. And then I'll know, okay, now we can start to use it at a little bit of distance to come back to me, a little further distance to come back to me. I think the other big mistake that a lot of people make when they're training their dog, it's all along this line of expectations. Your expectations get too high. You get ahead of yourself and you think as you're blazing down the trail that you should blow the whistle and the dog will come back, but you haven't graduated up to that distance. So first it's going to be in the house, then it's going to be outside with a long line attached, and I may add some of me running away from him to make it extra interesting for him. And then it will be off the property on a trail that I've sort of scoped out, again, always on a long line. At 5 months of age, he's in a development period I'm going to tell you about, but on a long line so that I'm sure he comes back to me. Big, big, big reinforcement. I love you, I love you, I love you. Praise, pat him, and feed him. So take your dog's food with you in the morning if you want to work on recalls outside, okay? Don't be stingy. You need to be generous. It's another very common mistake. Okay, so Basie here is 5 months of age, which means he's also in flight instinct period, which is a developmental stage that all dogs go through. Some dogs breeze through it and people say, oh, I didn't really even know that happened. And other people are like, oh yeah, I've lost my dog, once, twice, or 3 times. So 8 weeks to 4.5 months, your puppy is pretty much going to follow you around when you go outside. Hounds and beagles and terriers may not completely fall into that category because their hardwiring is pretty clear about, I gotta get stuff, I gotta get stuff, I gotta get stuff. Generally speaking though, those young puppies are going to follow you around, which is great. And then all of a sudden, 4.5 to 5 months, maybe 5.5 months, but that'd be pushing it, kicks in. And you may see them, like in my yard, they might be out under the tree sniffing, and I'd say, hey, puppy, come on. And the puppy will look at me, not so interesting anymore. And then they're going to run in the woods or go about doing whatever they're doing. And most people are like, oh my gosh, the dog is being obstinate or stubborn. Nope, Dog isn't being any of those things. That's a much higher thinking capability than dogs' brains are capable of. It's flight instinct. Leave it. It's flight instinct. Don't chew my leash. So here's another good thing. He's bored. So I'm going to give him something else to chew on, like a rope toy. He may not like that. We're still experimenting with what he likes, but I don't want him to chew my leash. So flight instinct. They're not being obstinate. They're not being stubborn. They're not being resentful. It's a developmental stage, and you're not that interesting anymore. So your job as a good dog owner is to make yourself interesting. Having a nice way to carry treats. This bait bag lives in my refrigerator. I grab it in the morning before my morning run. It's all sort of loaded with whatever I've put in there the night before, leftover hamburgers from the kids, hot dogs, cheese, roast beef. I buy deli ends for that particular reason. Then I run with this because I usually run and train dogs at the same time. So this is a perfect example of why we need the leave it command. Now, I don't particularly know if this plant is of danger to him, but I certainly don't want him eating my plants. And the owners of Basie are great, and they have this huge sort of, I guess I'd call it an atrium or something in their house where they have all these plants. And he's been pruning the plants a little bit more than they would like. So a leave it command is going to be paramount for this dog. And you can use it for all of these things: the leash, the plant. If he's up on the couch, I could use the leave it command for that. He doesn't understand it, which is why I didn't say it. Okay, it doesn't have any meaning to him yet. I only worked with him once today. But the rope toy is going to help with that a lot. Okay, the next thing I want to do is show you ringing the bell to go outside. Now, my definition of when I ask you, hey, is your dog house trained? Is yes, he is, okay? And then I'm going to ask you, what's his signal to go out? And I don't know, 80 to 90% of people say, oh, he doesn't have a signal to go out. I just let him out on a schedule. Okay, great. I could give you the liverwurst. You're house trained, but the dog is not. Unless the dog will come to you and say, yo, I got to go out now, he's not house trained. Back to eating my leash or something. Good boy, take that. Nope. Okay, so that's two. Twice I've had to take the leash out of his mouth. We go for a third, I'm going to get him something else to chew on. So your dog, if your dog is house trained, in my professional opinion, he has a signal that you recognize and respond to that indicates he needs to go outside and he's not having any accidents in the house whatsoever. Okay? So Basie here is going to learn to ring a bell in order to indicate he has to go outside. That's a good boy, so he really likes this rope toy. Now, the other thing with Basie at 5 months is he has lost the majority of his baby teeth, and now he's setting those adult teeth in his jaw. And in order to do that, he has got to chew on things. So there's a wide variety of toys around my house for dogs to chew on, and I will constantly be redirecting him to those. My house is very dog friendly and dog safe. So there aren't things around that he really can get into unless he's going to start chewing on furniture. Okay, so let's show you how to teach a dog to ring the bell to go out. There are some cardinal rules to this exercise that if you don't follow them, you will be very sorry because you'll have a dog that's ringing the bell for all sorts of different reasons. Basie, sit. Sit. Good boy. So we're going to redirect him. And I also don't want to get into tug of war with him. Good boy. Okay, so let's go and we'll find the bells. Okay, so I'm going to hold Basie away, but here are the bells. And there's peanut butter on this one, and there's a little smudge of peanut butter on that one. And they are secured to my wall here, which is between my kitchen and my dining room. The door that I'm going to go out of is behind me. The bells do not need to hang directly next to your door. They can be anywhere in the house as long as the dog knows where they are, and you know that as soon as the dog rings the bell, out you're going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Basie up to the bells. I'm going to point to the peanut butter so he sniffs it. He may lick it. I don't care what he does. I just want them to ring. He's on leash now on purpose. As soon as those bells ring, I'm going to say outside. That's going to be his question or his command. do you need to go outside? And we're going to go right out the door and down the steps. Basie. Look. Maybe he doesn't like peanut butter. Basie. So he hasn't wrung them, so I'm not going to do anything yet. So there may not be enough. I have a little blob of liverwurst. So I'm going to step on his leash to keep him away. And we'll do, step on his leash a little bit further. We know he likes the liverwurst. So, interesting, he doesn't like peanut butter. We'll have to make a note of that. So now I'll show him the liverwurst. Maybe you can't see through all that fur. There he's. Good boy. Outside. Outside. Good boy. So we come outside. We'll go to the designated potty area. So Basie rang the bell. He's outside on a leash in our designated potty area. We're going to spare you the actual elimination process. I'm sure you all know what it looks like when your dog goes to the bathroom, which he has done. So the golden rule is you come out to your potty area with your leash and you basically stand there and become a post. Particularly if you're talking about a young puppy, there's a lot of distractions out here. As soon as the dog is going to the bathroom, say your command. For Basie, it's hurry up. So as the dog's eliminating, I say, hurry up, hurry up. You don't need to sing it, you don't need to yell it, you don't need to repeat it 16 times. Just twice. As soon as the dog finishes eliminating, be sure you have a valuable treat. It could be liverwurst, could be Natural Balance, deli ends, something better than dog food. So the dog is eliminating, you label it, hurry up, and then you pop a treat in his mouth as soon as they're done eliminating. Don't do it before they're done eliminating or you'll interrupt them and they may not continue to finish, and then you might have an accident in the house. Be sure your potty area is clean so that some dogs don't like to eliminate it if it's too messy. So be sure you might leave just one business down and pick the rest up. He's still trying to figure this one out. If you have a dog that you take out but then eliminates in the house, you haven't waited long enough. You need to be patient. What that tells me is the dog went outside, forgot they had to go to the bathroom, they got distracted, and then when you went back in the house, they're like, oh yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom. Well, they sniff around, oh, I'll go here. Okay, so house training is all about management. Okay, so let's just review that because that's very important. Put something on the bells to set the dog up to ring them. The bells do not need to be by the door. Every time your dog rings those bells, he goes on leash, outside, to the potty area, period. Nothing else. He doesn't go for a walk, you don't go to the mail, you don't go over and chat to your neighbor. Otherwise, the dog starts to learn on a variable reinforcement schedule. Think Las Vegas slot machine. Oh, well, sometimes I ring the bell and we go see Susie next door. I'm going to ring the bell. Sometimes I ring the bell and we go outside and play ball. I'm going to ring the bell. It'll be annoying and obnoxious and you'll end up not using it as a house training tool. Thor, that you've all seen before, my yellow lab, was trained to the bell. I then take the bell when he was younger with me to visit my mother, to visit my brother. I reorient him, here's the bell. Doesn't matter where the door is, here's the bell. And he rings it and then I take him out the door. So it's great for traveling so that you can be sure that your dog will be house trained wherever you go. Now at age 11, Thor no longer rings the bell. He whines at the door or he scratches at the door or paws at it, which is fine with me. But in terms of puppies, new dogs in your house, if you've newly adopted a dog, I think bell ringing can really, really be a great thing. Here, Basie. So, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Doggy Dilemmas. Basie and I look forward to seeing you next week.
If you have a doggy dilemma, Denise can help. Visit www.denisemazzola.com for more information. Denise Mazzola is a certified professional dog trainer tested through the Association of Pet Dog Trainers. The association requires recertification every 3 years with a minimum of 30 hours of continuing education. She has been training dogs and working with families for over 20 years.